And we're here in Toronto, Canada for day 6 of action at the U23 World Championships here at York University. I'm Brian Jones with Kevin Minderhart, part of Next Gen Network's coverage of the women's division. Still in pool play, USA facing off against Great Britain. USA trying to lock up that top seed and advance to semifinals. Great Britain trying to pull off the huge upset. So far we've seen great play from the United States. Some big playmakers over there, Cammie Groom being one of them. Julia Snyder having a great tournament at center handler. And getting started for Great Britain. Here we go. Link looking underneath, finding Renison. One of the captains of this Great Britain team. Inside break overthrown. Caught. Staying in Great Britain's hands. Owen looking deep. Throws right into the hands of the U.S. Charrier there with a D. Chastain from UNC Wilmington, Callahan Award winner, picking up the disc for the U.S. in a horizontal stack. Looking for good, not available. Forced to go back, Van Mugen.
The U.S. stack extremely deep right now, but all the GB defenders backing them, afraid of their deep game.
Sadler. Cohen with the underneath, usually going deep, putting this one deep for the score to Charrier. Opens up the scoring 1-0. U.S. leads.
And the U.S. just rolling on their first point. Very smooth offense all around. Not a lot of pressure by the GB squad, allowing the U.S. to easily run this one in and get on the board 1-0.
We were told beforehand, expected GB to be patient. That's not so patient offense early on. Throwing an overthrow and then trying to go deep against Charrier, who's been there. One of the usual deep cutters for the United States, especially in the game against Canada earlier in the week. Here on day 6, tomorrow we'll start semifinals in the women's division. Top 4 teams advance. Great Britain sitting at the 5th spot. U.S. right now at the number 1 spot. Great Britain coming in seeded 7th, already done a great job of exceeding expectations.
And as you said, the GB squad sitting now in 5th seed, up from 7. The way this tournament works is the top 4 teams are going to be seeded into semifinal play. This is the last game for both these teams, so the GB squad having to pull off the giant killer upset in order to continue on in this tournament.
And going deep for Renison, not available. Going to be another quick turnover. Sadler in the center of the field. Chastain underneath. In power position, Chastain unleashes a huck deep, but miscommunication. That one's going to go to no one. Going to go back to Great Britain.
Yeah, Cohen had already broken off her cut there by the time Chastain went from the flick, forced around to the backhand side. Cohen was coming under, but Chastain unable to see the cut off by Cohen and puts that one to space anyway. U.S. back with the disc, good, picking it up.
Works out, U.S. getting it right back. Sadler. Good start here for the United States. Back to Chastain. Thumb swinging around the end zone. Cohen. Shelly Cohen out of North Carolina. One of the impact players on that squad. Inside break for the score to Sadler. It's going to be Van Mugen coming up with it. Abby Van Mugen with her first goal of the game. Chastain with the assist. U.S. out to a 2-0 lead in the early goings of this matchup. Beautiful day out today. Sun is out. Very still. Flags hardly moving comparatively to what we've seen in the middle of this week. Setting up some great action here in the women's division. And later on today, we'll have the quarterfinals in the men's division. We're doing Japan versus Germany. Other quarterfinals matchups we're seeing, though, Austria versus Australia, and that's one of the surprises in the open division. United States facing off against Great Britain, a depleted squad. Other sides, we see Team Canada facing off against Italy. Italy winning the 5-4 matchup over Team France to advance.
And looking at the women's side, as it's seated right now, the U.S. is on top 8-0 with the win over Japan. Japan coming in second, 7-1. Only lost to the U.S. in what was a real thriller of a game. U.S. coming from behind 3 breaks in a row to win in OT 17-16. Canada, 3rd seed, losses to Japan and the U.S. So Japan and Canada right now, as it stands, will be playing each other in a semifinal matchup, and then the U.S. will draw Colombia unless GB can pull off this upset.
GB looking deep. Musted Hydrich looking for the catch, not available. Jones, very steady handler here for the United States, playing a great role. Jones now wide open, deep. Swafford trying to run this one down. Can't come up with it, trailing out of bounds from Jones.
And that one just trailing out at the very last minute. I'm interested to see how the U.S. decides to sub this game. It's not a must-win for the U.S. They can actually afford to lose this game, still advance into the semifinals with the #1 seed. A loss here, I'm going to have to check it out, but a loss here might actually end up with a rematch of this game tomorrow morning at the exact same time.
Great Britain forced a punt. Foul called downfield. This one's coming back.
And this one interesting. The other day we talked about the Woof-Doof rules. And we got some feedback on the internet that the Woof-Doof rules had changed this year to mimic the U.S. rule on picks, where that one needs to be completed in order to get the disc back. If thrower has to acknowledge.
Kostick wide open underneath, putting it deep, running it down. Cousins with the score. 3-0 United States, rolling early as to be expected. Favorite in this tournament. Recapping earlier, as you said, U.S. pulling out a squeaker against Japan earlier on. Down 16-14, rallying with 3 straight breaks at 16 all. They were forced to make a goal line stand against the Japanese. A couple turnovers later, U.S. found themselves victorious. We also got to do the Team Canada, Team U.S. match. It's quite the crowd out here. Great atmosphere. Canada rooting on the host team. U.S. having to deal with the crowd, but they got off to a red-hot start in that game, up 5-0. Canada battling back.
And it'll be interesting that from day one we said this was really a 3-team competition for that gold medal spot. Due to the absences of Colombia, missing lots of their star players, several of them to the World Games. It will be interesting to see what Colombia can do when they meet up against the U.S. in the semifinals. Those top 3 teams, though, looking extremely strong. GB having a tough time to start this game out, though. Really needing to – they're not getting a lot of pressure from the U.S. They're just going to need to pick their spots a little bit better. Make sure they're throwing to open women.
Around there, doesn't work out. Intended for Knudsen. U.S. going the other way. Cooper. Over Stern. Bid is not successful. This one going up for the score. Letourneau putting it in. U.S. is cruising. Great Britain not able to string more than a few passes together.
Letourneau getting the score there, and as I was saying, it'll be interesting to see how the U.S. plays the roster here. Not needing to win this game, have some opportunity to go deep in the roster. Letourneau not making the stat line as much. This opportunity for her to get a lot of play time, along with some of the more depth of the still very strong U.S. roster. GB with the timeout here. We're going to take a quick timeout ourselves, and we'll be right back with you.
We're back here in Toronto, Canada. USA facing off against Great Britain in the women's division here in day 6. Still part of pool play in the women's division. I'm Brian Jones here with Kevin Minderhout. Part of Next Gen Network's coverage at York University of the U23 championships. USA cruising early on, up 4-0 on Great Britain. Great Britain just not able to put together any semblance of offense. USA getting easy Ds, being able to work it very quickly for the score.
And always difficult late in these pool play tournaments to find the game that has the most meaning. And this one does have some meaning here, as GB is the only team that can still advance to the semis with a win here. They're going up against the powerhouse US, and it takes a special mindset to go from the 7th seed and get in here and upset a number 1 like that. And right now the GB squad has not shown that mindset. It really requires a perfect game and some mental errors by the better team.
We haven't seen many mental errors so far by the U.S. and a lot of sloppiness from the Great Britain squad.
And they're just not feeling a lot of pressure from the GB defense. The one turnover they've had, just a small floater error out of bounds.
Great Britain trying to get started off. This one floating out of bounds, not available. Link with his overthrow. U.S. going the other way. Soper with the rare hammer for the score to Desmond. Paige Soper hitting Claire Desmond. Hammer through to the break side, 5-0 United States. Keeping this break train going.
Claire Desmond having a fantastic tournament, as you knew she would. So far through 7 games, 8 goals, 8 assists. Out of the UC Berkeley Pie Queens program, moving into the vaunted Fury program. Desmond really has a well-balanced skill set, able to do it offensively, defensively, deep in the field, back in the field. A very talented young player. Only makes you think that the Fury squad is just going to be dominant for several more years to come.
Wait, Desmond, the equivalent of a 5-tool player here in Ultimate. As Kevin said, doing it all. Not really needing to do it all, though, for this U.S. squad, but can prove to be useful at any point in time.
Not necessary one bit, but one of the better utility players, able to step in when there's a gap.
Blair, captains of this GB squad, looking for Renison. That's going to be another turnover. U.S. transitioning. Desmond. Seems like here, coaches for the U.S. splitting play time between everybody. Cohen. Groom downfield. Groom, one of the spectacular players for the U.S., and that's another turnover on this possession. This one goes to the U.S.
Yeah, Groom has been playing fantastic for the U.S., leading the team in goals, 17 goals, 5 assists.
GB trying to get on the board. This disc is going to be out of bounds, way upfield.
And wise choice by Cohen there not to touch the disc. She gets to now walk it up to the short field near the end zone. That one going out of bounds early. The rule being, if you defensive person makes a play on the disc, then you have to take the disc where the play was made.
U.S. looking to strike. Another goal, another tally, and it just keeps coming for the United States.
And I don't think we expected GB to win, but we didn't expect them to come out here as flat as they have today. Really struggling to get anything going. I think probably not believing.
One of the things that we've talked about so often throughout this tournament is confidence, especially for these international squads that are having to go up against some heavyweights that are just usually more talented, have better depth on their rosters, needing to believe before the start of the game. Great Britain showing some nerves early on. Now just looking to try to get on the board. 6-0 United States, scoring pretty well distributed amongst the American roster.
And I did misspeak earlier, Brian, when I said that GB still had a chance at this semifinal action. They do not, due to the fact that they have dropped a game to Colombia. If they pulled off the giant upset here, that would put them tied with Colombia 5-3 for the 4th spot.
And when it rains, it pours. Drop hole, giving the U.S. the disc on the goal line. Good. Puts it in. Flips for the goal. Letourneau with her 2nd goal of the game.
And this one all but over before it has even started. GB going to have to really pour on some hail and brimstone to get back into this game. And the U.S. squad just too good mentally right now, in a really great place. Their energy not too high, but not low either. Just a nice sustained, back to business kind of attitude.
I think you're also going to see that too with the U.S. depth. Some of their other players have not received the playing time they're probably accustomed to on their team. Their own college squads, but here today they're going to be given the chance to go out and prove that they should be on the field. One of the things you've mentioned before, it's not garbage time if you're playing hard and not treating it like garbage time.
Yeah, I always believe that if you're a bottom roster player somewhere deeper in the depth chart, that when you do get the opportunity, you really want to come out and play really hard. That's when your team really relies on you at that point to bring the energy. The top of the roster working hard in those games that they're needed. If you can transition some of that work off to the bottom part of your roster, that's when you start really dominating tournaments, the ability to win. Obviously, the U.S. able to do that extremely effectively.
Renison putting this one deep, looking for the first strike. Owen can't come down with it. Charrier was there. U.S. going the other way. It's close as GB's probably come to scoring thus far.
And I like that the U.S. hasn't fallen into a game of lazy return hucks. That one a huck, but not a lazy one. Definitely to a wide open receiver there. Lauren Sadler notching the goal. U.S. up 8-0, but like I said, still having enough patience and focus. They're working the end ones. When the deep throw is open, they're hitting it. One thing that can happen when you're up a big like this in a blowout game is the propensity to let up on what your focus is as a team and just start taking shots knowing that, hey, we're going to be better than them deep. But I like the retention here offensively and really focusing on the key basics that are going to help them win tomorrow and hopefully for them on Sunday as well.
It's important to continue to play your game, to not get out of rhythm. Bad habits can form in these blowouts. USA up 8-0.
We'll give a quick shout out to some of the U.S. team members that are unable to play today. Sarah Davis, Michaela Meister, both out with ACL tears. Davis, team captain, had hers occur before the college series, just got surgery 3 weeks ago, but still here on the sideline. Been a big leadership presence for them. Meister, hers happening at training camp in a really unfortunate turn of events for the U.S. team, as she's one of those two Fury players, Desmond included with them. She's on the field right now. Both of them missing from action today.
Owen. Bonham, Great Britain looking for the first point of the game. Past midfield, open cutter. Very close, looking for that break throw. Link going for the shot. And there it is, first goal of the game. Carla Link hitting Kim Owen for the goal. Great Britain on the board.
And a collective sigh of relief for the GB squad. This one goes up, just hoping Lisa Cooper not going to track it down. And some smiles for the GB squad. Much warranted here. You see there, number 5, Charlie Blair, giving a little fist pump. Don't want to go in bagel to the second half. Again, weather conditions here, no wind. Last few days, the wind had really picked up, doing some shifting, coming from the south initially, bringing in the warmer wind. Then on Tuesday, coming in from the north, making it quite a chilly experience out here. Transitioning back to the south for yesterday, and now it's just calm and beautiful. Blue skies, probably sitting around 75, 80 degrees this morning. Expected to warm up a little bit later in the day.
U.S. offense taking the field for the first time this game. Kostick looking deep for Desmond right off the bat. Desmond with some steps, Kostick not able to deliver. GB. Zone here from the United States. Throws right into a poach. Quick movement, transition. Kostick. Hammer. Desmond. This one's going to connect, and that's half. 9-1. U.S. with a big lead.
And that hammer, or not the hammer, excuse me, but the huck that resulted in the turnover is one of those throws more in line with what I was talking about earlier, where you're not playing as crisp as you could. That one from a standstill handler going to Desmond, who didn't really make any kind of move. It was more of like, I'm standing here, you're cutting, I'll throw it to you because we're up really big. You probably wouldn't see that decision by the U.S. if this were a tighter game. But the U.S. taking half now, 9-1. We're going to take a halftime of our own. We'll be back in 10 minutes for the conclusion of this morning's matchup between the U.S. and Great Britain.
And we're back here in Toronto, Canada for day 6 of the women's division here. USA facing off against Great Britain. Big lead for the United States, up 8, 9-1. I'm Brian Jones, here with Kevin Minderhout, part of Next Gen Network's coverage of the U23 World Championships, hosted here at York University.
And we have a special shout out to start this half off to Julia Snyder. It is her 21st birthday today, celebrating here with her fellow USA teammates. And boy, are they having a birthday for her. 9-1 up on the British.
USA just rolling, getting Ds on almost the first few passes of the point each time. Great Britain able to string along a little bit and get one huck in towards the end of the half. It was 8-0 to start off for the U.S., and here we have the offense on for the second time of the game. Pesh. Lou looking deep for Groom. Groom, nobody around her for the score. 10-1.
And what a marvelously executed play with Groom in the back of the stack, faking in and then just busting deep. And the wheels to outrun anybody on the field. Look at that. You see the beautiful cut there. The beginning of that left side of the screen. Groom busting under As soon as her defender turns her hips, she is off to the races and running down what is now her 18th goal of the tournament. We talked a little bit about subbing in a blowout like this, and we just had the opportunity to talk to Mike Whitaker, we were talking to during the halftime about their subbing patterns. And he said that the U.S., even in this game, is going to be playing a very well-balanced roster. Not going to be going heavy into the depth chart. Going to be playing everybody a little bit, playing very open, getting all the members of their team involved in action and working together.
Link along the sidelines, through the zone, tipped in the air. Running it down is Owen. GB keep staying alive on this possession. Kim Owen with the disc, centers it. Inside break, too far for the intended receiver. U.S. going the other way. This is more of the same what we saw in the first half. Great Britain trying to make a defensive stand. Letourneau, Pesh. Cohen looking deep. Lou reels it in for the score. Megan Lou coming down with it. Cohen really racking up the assists in this game.
Yeah, she's having a great game. But really not a lot standing in her way of doing what she wants. And going back to these subbing patterns, the reason for keeping that open has a lot to do with the fact that that's how USA likes to play every game they have. They have enough depth in their roster that they can get everybody points in the game. So first 70, 75% of the game, they're playing extremely open. Then if need be, they'll tighten up later in the match and put in their top dogs for the big run. But the key of that kind of strategy is that their top dogs are going to have fresh legs. Going up against teams like the top-heavy Japanese team and their big comeback, a major factor, the ability to play everybody early on and then come in firing when the other team is tired and your top players are rung up on the ladder of freshness. This one coming in. GB looking to get another point on the board.
Nicklin with the disc looking back for Link. Dumb swing for Great Britain. McCullough lays out along the sideline. Gives it right back to the United States. Good. One of the main handlers here with Chastain. Chastain, the around. Swafford. Inside break, a little high. Going to be a turn for the United States, a rare one. Just their third turnover of this game.
And Coach Whitaker here on the sidelines urging the U.S. team on. As soon as that turnover occurred, he's saying, let's go, put that disc into play, wanting to keep the pace fast, wanting to keep the focus, not allowing them to rest on their laurels and get lazy in this game.
U.S. poaching off the vertical stack. Renison going deep, Link. Underneath, West Heinrichs. Renison. Link. Owen. Owen with the only goal of this game for the United States, or Great Britain. Turnover, giving it right back to the United States. Chastain picking it up. Inside break to Swafford. Swafford inside to Sow. Good. Looking for the big gainer to Chastain, overthrown. U.S. getting sloppy on this possession with their throws. GB going the other way, looking for the around. Now, big throw deep. Chastain rips it down.
And that one just too easy for the very talented Chastain. In position the whole time. No contest. Moving the NGN cord out of the way there.
Good. Upline gainer. Center of the field. Charrier, Chastain. Looking deep for the score. Lauren Sadler reeling it in for a second goal of the game.
And this a beautiful flick throw by Chastain. Everything that you're looking for in a flick. Good balance. Strong core. Stepping out. Lots of spin on the disc, just allowing it to float as Sadler puts on the afterburners just so she makes sure she gets the pancake in there. Really like that throw. And really like good over here near sideline earlier in the play. Had an opportunity to look deep. Goes with the holster, opts instead to swing the disc across the field. Open it up for the Sadler score. And the U.S. expanding on their lead, now up 11. If you're just joining us, the U.S. has been absolutely dominant all game. Going up 8-0 before the GB squad finally able to put one in. Again, as we said, this game, little implication for the future. The semis for the women's side of the tournament are all locked in. We know the 4 teams: U.S., Canada, Japan, and Colombia. Very hard to find the meaningful matchups when tournaments of this length in the pool play format.
Zone from the United States, keeping on the pressure, trying to not get too comfortable in this game. Great Britain overthrow right into Sal's hands. Back for Jones. Kostick clears up the line. The around to Stern. Looking back. Giant layout by Great Britain. Blair comes up empty, but a turnover for the United States downfield. They have not been as crisp as we've liked them to be in the second half.
Yeah, definitely some more turnovers than they had in the first half. And really no reason for that, I think, other than focus. It's not been an adjustment by the GB squad. There's not any more pressure than there was earlier. Desmond taking a tiny tumble there, back up. Okay.
Drop by Great Britain, gives it back. Bonham just can't hang on to it. Kostick in the traffic. Desmond comes up with it. Stern. Kostick. Stern reels it in, snags it out of the air. 13-1, U.S. leads.
Taking another look at it there. Great upline work by Kostick. Slashing from the dump, going up line, beating her defender with the easy throw for the goal. U.S. expanding on their lead, now up 12. Great Britain absolutely struggling.
Too much pressure by the United States. Lack of fundamentals here and execution from Great Britain.
And I don't even think it's been pressure by the U.S. I think it's more mental pressure going up against the U.S. rather than what's going on the field. had the opportunity last night, was watching the Bidding for Gold trailer, a small independent documentary being made by Adam Shapiro. It's up on YouTube. Go check it out right now. Look for Bidding for Gold. But there was a great part in there where Alexander Gesquire, the coach of the USA World Games team, which is the absolute top pinnacle of the U.S. players, and he was saying confidence is one of the most important things that you can have. If you have intensity and confidence and you do them together, you're not going to be making mistakes. And very hard to have confidence when you're going up against the U.S. squad, which a lot of teams see as a formidable giant. They have name recognition. They have Claire Chastain, Callahan winner. They've got Desmond, member of Fury. All those things can play a part going into the game, mentally thinking that you're already beaten, removing the confidence element that your own team has and their ability to execute and do what is necessary. As you've seen here, GB just struggling to complete open passes.
Ends up with a goal for Chastain, goes up the line, 14-1. U.S. still leading by a large margin. Now expanding that to 13. Lack of confidence here too, and nerves coming into this game, and maybe even just low expectations of what's going to happen. You see Great Britain just lacking focus, and these are throws we expect a World's team to be able to complete. And we timeout on the field. We'll be right back to see if USA can successfully close out this one, up 14-1. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the U23 World Championships in Toronto, Canada. We're back here in Toronto, Canada, close out here this game in the women's division, the Under-23 World Championships. I'm Brian Jones here with Kevin Minderhout, part of Next Gen Network's coverage here at York University. We have ourselves a beautiful day, the wind picking up in the later stages of this game. U.S., though, up 14-1, absolutely cruising in this one. Nothing behind them, but later on today, we have in our upcoming matchup at the Open Division, we'll have Germany facing off against Japan. Germany starting off the tournament right. For the first half, at least, giving the U.S. their biggest test, went up 9-8 at the end of the first half, where the U.S. finally woke up and took control in Japan, featuring the Jet, Tayu Arakawa, one of the fastest players on the field and one of the smallest. We look forward to that exciting matchup at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be back to give you that game.
It was an absolute pleasure watching Arakawa and the rest of the Japanese team as they really took it to the GB squad, earlier this week. That game happening on Wednesday. You can check it out on NGN. But they were playing some fantastic Frisbee, a really great brand of quick-moving ultimate, high-level skilled athletes on the field and doing exactly what they wanted. GB, similar in that game, having a lot of trouble getting the wheels turning. And GB on the open side is out of this tournament after we saw their performance in the
playing the U.S. later on today, actually in quarters.
Excuse me. They're in the quarters, so still in it.
Able to survive yesterday. They had to face off against Switzerland in the 5-4 pre-quarters game. Great Britain, though, pretty depleted, not having that confidence going into this game, talking to the coaches yesterday. Their big player, Sam Bowen, unfortunately out. U.S. with another tally, up 15-1.
Well, the GB Open squad has showed flashes of brilliance, as we saw in the Canada GB Showcase game. After that game, definitely left feeling like they were contenders in the tournament.
Tough for teams with a lack of depth. Bowen having to play the majority of points. Been a rough road for him for the Great Britain Open squad. 4 other players down. And if you were the U.S. maybe or Canada, you can come back from that. But Great Britain absolutely needs everybody on board to be able to go deep into the tournament.
tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., we'll have the 2 women's semis, the U.S. taking on, we believe, Colombia. And Colombia, just a very interesting story on the women's side. Short players, but if they're playing their top of their roster, they really have the ability to compete with anyone. But the way that the U.S. subs, using all 20 players throughout the game, is really going to be hard for those players to come in and make a difference in that game. Have to expect the U.S. to once again roll, as they'll be on their 7th day of the tournament, 6th day of women's play.
Owen looking for the second score of the game. There it is for GB, hitting the captain, Ruby Renison. Great Britain with another score here in the second half. Able to string together several passes to the wide open cut here on the right corner of the end zone.
And just stringing together several open passes is something we haven't seen a lot. If they could have started doing that from the beginning, I have no doubt this score would be far closer. I think just the mental hit of going down as big as they did earlier on has really prevented them from having a game that they really have the ability to make closer. It's not that GB is really this much worse than the U.S. squad. It's just that the way they came out flat prevented them from playing the game that their potential enables them to.
And it's tough over this long week period. You've been playing a lot of games for a roster that's not got as much depth as the United States. They're in the 9th game of the week. Pretty hectic pool play schedule for both of these women's squads.
An interesting story about the GB coach. Not the original coach that was scheduled to be here, as Carol Moore went down. Brian's going to tell you about it.
Carol Moore actually subbing in, was one of the assistant coaches on the open squad. Original coach going down with an ACL injury, not able to attend this tournament. As Jones gets it back for the U.S. Side stack action. Snyder. Charrier. Liu. Charrier. U.S. offense trying to look efficient here and finish this one off right. Looking backfield. Jones. Give and go. Charrier. Groom. Kostick. Overthrown. Just looked like Kostick could have made the grab.
And just a few too many passes there. Effectively working it back and forth, but too quickly. Once they get it around from one side to the other, you want to have a moment to take a look rather than turn it right back. And not enough pressure to really warrant moving it that much.
GB hangs on. Bonham through the cup. GB really trying to rotate this one around. Blair. Dean. Layout along the sideline. Inbounds, no. Out of bounds. Going to give it back to the birthday girl. Snyder picking it up. Celebrating her 21st birthday. Waves off Kostick. Big around for Groom. Overthrown. Charrier comes in to save the day. Charrier looking for Groom. Back to Jones. Jones unleashing the hammer for the score, finding Snyder. 16-2, United States with game point.
And I really like the play earlier on to get this possession going. where the dump clears out. You bring somebody from the stack back for the wide open, very wide swing. Missed the intended target, but still a very effective way to work the field. Those downfield cutters often being backed and the space so wide open that you're not being clogged by any other handlers there, so you can really do whatever you want. Just a really nice way to start off any play set. If you could clear your handler out, bring somebody from the back of the stack. Very easy throw. You're not going to lose as many yards as if you have to have your primary handler going for a reset backfield. And you're going to have a ton of space to work with. You can really, once that person catches it, they've got 20 yards clear on either side of them that they can break it, they can go deep, they can throw to another continuation pass for yardage gain, and effectively switch the whole field in 2 or 3 seconds. Nice fundamentals showing through by the U.S. here late in a blowout game, 16-2.
Link. More zone from the United States, forcing Link to work it up the field with the rest of her handlers. McCulloch. It's it around to Owen. Wilson. Now in the middle of the field, and U.S. transitioning to man defense. Wilson. Swing, overthrown, and those are the type of passes GB has not been able to complete all game long. Desmond hustling to the disc.
That one not even an overthrow, just not collected, but collected there by number 14, Cassie Swafford. And the U.S. finishing this game off in authoritative style. Swafford with the 17th goal. And the U.S. will go undefeated in pool play, taking the #1 seed, going into semifinal play tomorrow. They have the rest of the day to rest. And there you see the giant head in the crowd. Always fun to have the audience participating actively. Even though the cheering on was easy here today. I'm sure it'll come in handy as the U.S. gears up for their 1-4 game tomorrow, 9 a.m.
Facing off against Team Colombia. Canada gets Japan in the other semifinal. Beautiful day here at York University. We'll be back later on today at 11 a.m. for action in the Open Division. Quarterfinals, Germany taking on Japan. Promising to be a good game. Germany taking half again in the United States early in this tournament for their first game, 9-8, as they take the field for warm-ups. Japan, in exciting fashion, taking down Great Britain with great game, great movement by Agata. The other handlers, Kawabata, as well. Here as the U.S. celebrates victory in the Spirit Circle with Great Britain. Victory 17-2 for Kevin Minderhout. I'm Brian Jones. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the U23 World Championships here in Toronto.